voiceover. Title: Queer Paths Through the Industry with Paul Struthers.
Hello, my name's Jon Binnie. My pronouns are he, him, and for those of you who would like a visual description of me, I'm a 50-year-old white, chunky, balding man with wearing glasses. I'm wearing a navy blue sweater. I'm sitting in my study, which has got a grey background behind me. Um, and over to you, Christian.
My name is Christian Klesse, and I use the pronouns he, him, and his. I'm a smallish white person with short hair. Today I wear a peaked cap, cotton cap with a bit of latex bits factored into it. I wear glasses. I wear earrings and a purplish shiny t-shirt. And in the back of me, there are bookshelves and a door frame, and I'm sitting in my office space.
Hello, my name is Paul Struthers. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a 39-year-old medium-built cisgender male, mixed race Scottish Ghanaian with brown eyes, short curly black hair with a bit of a beard. I'm wearing a short sleeve black shirt which has white lines on it. I'm sitting in my kitchen, and behind me is three white doors and a calendar with imagery of a Scottish loch.
Thank you, everyone, for giving your audio descriptions. It's our great pleasure to welcome Paul Struthers. Paul's worked in the film industry for over 15 years. He was previously festival director at Queer Screen Mardi Gras Film Festival, and he's currently director of exhibition and programming at the Frameline Festival until next Friday, when he's going to be leaving and going to be embarking on a range of new adventures in film. So, Paul, thank you very much again for joining us. We'd just like to start off by just asking you if you could just say a little bit about your experience in organising queer film festivals and what inspired you to get involved in the first place.
Well, first of all, thanks both of you for having me. It's been great getting to know you over the last few months, and I think it's fun to be part of this project that will hopefully inspire other people to go out and produce their own queer film events, big and small, and medium, of course. So, yeah, I've worked in the film industry for over 15 years, and ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a filmmaker. When I finished university, I realized I wasn't a genius filmmaker, so I started working in a cinema, and then I ended up working for a sales agent. I went to Cannes when I was 22, which was super fun, obviously, for a 22-year-old. Then I ended up working in distribution, and then I quit my job and then moved to Sydney. And I was really fortunate that I got a job at Sydney Film Festival marketing, and I would work for 4 or 5 months, go traveling, work for 4 or 5 months, go traveling. And then after the fourth year, someone at Mardi Gras Film Festival, which is run by Queer Screen, said, "Hey, we see you're quite good at marketing. We'd love your help." And I was like, "Yeah, hey, yeah, I'm happy to come and volunteer." And I got involved and ended up helping program a small festival, Queer Screen Film Fest. And from that point onwards, I was just, yeah, this is something I'm keen to do. And then the job came up for the festival director there. And I was fortunate enough that even with my short experience in programming, I feel as I had proved to them that I could do it. And then, yeah, I was the festival director at Mardi Gras for 4 years. And it was just a wonderful experience because I was new to it. I'm gay, so I'd been part of the queer scene for a while, but I hadn't really been part of a queer film festival, even though I'd attended various. And it was just a joy to work with my colleagues in the board and really build the festival so that it really became one of the places queer folks in Sydney really came out for. And the great thing about it was we managed to triple the audience in the space of 4 years, which is really unheard of. And we weren't doing it for the money, we were doing it because we wanted to increase the diversity, and in turn that increased the money. So that in turn allowed the festival to continue at the same rate. So it was just it was a wonderful experience. It was so busy because I wasn't just doing programming, I was doing marketing, I was helping with publicity, I was helping with the guests. So it was a real training ground in queer film. Like we got glad to come to Australia for the first time. We arranged a conference for 40 different delegates from Asia, the Queer Pacific Film Festival Alliance. We had guests. It was just, yeah, it was a wonderful experience. I'll stop talking. I could go on and on. It was great.
No, that's fantastic. That's very inspiring. Could Programming is key to creating audiences. Can you just say a little bit about your own approach to programming?
So my approach to programming, and I feel like, I'll be honest, I suffer a bit from anxiety, and I feel as though it's helped my programming because my anxiety is really a sort of fixation. So my fixation is always I want to make sure I see as many films, queer films, as possible, and that my programming team do, whether that's at Mardi Gras Film Festival, at Frameline. So I'm really digging deep, and I'm sure sometimes the programming team are like, Paul, give up, give up. However, at the end of the day, we often uncover some gems, be it a world premiere or an international premiere. So I'm a real digger. I just don't give up. And also, that is the same with
Mm.
confirming films, because I think a lot of people would imagine a festival like Frameline, like the films are dropping out of the sky. But even though we're the number one queer film festival in the world, longest running, largest, it's still a fight to get world premieres, to get international premieres, to prove to distributors, sales agents, uh, filmmakers that a queer film festival is a great place to launch a film. Thankfully, Frameline is respected by many, and it's just a bit of a fight. But yeah, to answer your question more, in terms of programming, I'm really trying to make sure there's something for everyone in the queer community so that they feel a place. And I don't mean just finding like a diverse film and throwing it in the smallest cinema we've got at 11 a.m. It's important that when it comes to diversifying the audience, that the diversity you want, you're putting front and center. And I can give a good example at Mardi Gras Film Festival. 3 out of the 4 years I was there was a lesbian opening night film. And I feel like that's really unheard of in queer film festivals around the world. But you know what that did and what was really exciting, and I'm sure still happens today? The queer female lesbian audience felt seen, felt valued, would come to more films. The other audiences would come and see it. And we really built the queer lesbian female audience at Mardi Gras. And I'm sure they're still coming to this day, which is really, really important. And what I've always tried at Mardi Gras and at Frameline was to look at the diversity and really make it a point to increase the lesbian films, the trans films, the people of color films. And it's not just about increasing those films. You can't just program diverse films and expect diverse audiences to come. You have to work with marketing, or as I did, work in marketing at Mardi Gras Film Festival and really connect with the groups, with figureheads in the community who can be champions of the films. Like I remember at Mardi Gras, we worked with a lot of trans groups, and like the trans audience really came out for Mardi Gras. They would Some of the folks from the different orgs would come and present the film. We'd give away X amount of tickets, and there was a real ownership of their screening, and it was just wonderful to see. You know, it was just yeah, it's just wonderful. Like if you want to be diverse, you have to be welcoming, and you have to not just throw the diverse slots in the graveyard. You know.
That's great. Thank you, Paul. You've been working with film in a range of geographical contexts, including the UK, Australia, and the United States. Just wondered if you could just say a little bit about what difference you think the sort of geographical context makes in terms of programming.
Well, I think it's interesting because when it comes to Mardi Gras, there's a sort of circuit of films. When I was doing Mardi Gras in Sydney, I was super fortunate. It was a dream come true. I would get to go to Frameline. I'd get to go to Outfest sometimes. And a lot of the program for Mardi Gras, which was the following February, those festivals would be June and July. I would be trying to confirm a lot of those films, but also at the same time, obviously trying to have a program of difference, looking at and fighting for films for festivals that come out after that, such as Edinburgh, such as San Sebastian, Carlovare, Toronto. In other words, what I'm trying to say is it's a different cycle. Like Mardi Gras would have half of Frameline and Outfest, but then the new batch. Whereas Frameline, in terms of geographical, like the sort of program would start, we would start programming in, say, September. And the sort of first port of call really is Cannes, because Cannes was too late. So we'd be looking at films from Cannes until like South by Southwest. But the key festivals we would get films from is Berlin and Sundance of that year. And I was super fortunate to go to Berlin and Sundance. Like any kid who's into cinema, it was a dream come true. So Sundance and Berlin, especially Berlin, were the key festivals where we would pick up films. And often we, along with Inside Out and a few other queer film festivals, would be the first queer film festival to play those films. It is a real tough negotiation, you know. And me and various members of the programming team, we always managed to get a good few. We wouldn't get all of them, but we would get a good few. Does that answer your question? Was that what you were going for?
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. That was fascinating. Another question we wanted to ask you is how important you think cooperating and working with other groups is for organizing queer film festivals.
I think it's really, really important because the sad fact is LGBTQ plus organizations, be it not-for-profits, be it advocacy groups, be it arts organizations, we're all underfunded. So we have to support each other in whichever way we can. And it can be large partnerships or small partnerships. It's funny, I'm very good friends with a filmmaker called Nika Anuri, who did The Same Difference, a film that played at Mardi Gras Film Festival. And every time I see her, she tells me about this screening she came to at Mardi Gras. And I always forget about it until she mentions it. And I saw her a few weeks ago. She was coming through Oakland, and I hung out with her and Giselle and a few others. And she was saying, Paul, I just always remember that In Bed with Madonna outdoor screening down at the Botanic Gardens where the screen came out of the ground. And I always remember, and the reason I'm bringing this up is we worked with the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras at the time because they had a partnership with something that was going on down there. So we worked out a deal that we would play a film and that I would confirm the film, which was In Bed with Madonna. And my friend here, she's from here, she was a guest, she still talks about it. It's just highlights that these partnerships, you don't know what's going to happen, that someone who you met 4 or 5 or 6 years ago is still talking about it. So that's an example of a really, really big partnership that people are still talking about now. It was 1,000 people. It was just really, really wonderful. And then in terms of other groups, it's really important if you're a queer film festival producer, really get to know the local queer orgs. There's a group in Auckland called Spectrum Queer Media run by kin folks, and they really focus on people of color. And I work with them all the time. We have free encore screenings. They always bring various folks. When we have queer films of color at the Castro, our big theater, I always make sure that kin folks is on board, and I'm always happy as well to give out free tickets for the community, because obviously some communities can't afford, so we can't always expect people to pay. And that's another thing to remember for people who are putting on stuff. It is important that we give out some free tickets for those who can't access the pricing, and it's important, and everyone needs to be included. Yeah, it's a very important to work with other groups for sure.
Yeah, that this is really interesting, and it's also really interesting what you said about free tickets. It's maybe paradoxical that my next question will be about marketing, because your background is in marketing, which is also a sort of unique skill set you have. And I wanted, and you touched upon marketing earlier on in the interview. Could you expand a bit on the significance of marketing in organizing queer film festivals?
I think, again, it's like going back to my anxiety when it comes to programming in terms of uncovering every stone. Like, my background in marketing, I was working in marketing at a cinema, then I was working at a sales agent, and then I was working in distribution, and then at Sydney Film Festival. And what I learned at Sydney Film Festival is every film can have its own mini campaign, and it's not just about getting in sales. Like, for example, if you have a guest coming from Japan and you've only sold 10 tickets, you want to ensure that that screening is at least half full, and you want to ensure that you're marketing to every cross section of the audience, like the primary, secondary, third. And when it comes to marketing, it's not just about marketing within the queer groups, which is of course very, very important. It's about marketing within all of the arts orgs in your city, like, it's important. What I learned at Sydney Film Festival is make sure that every arts org is promoting us and the relevant films that would be relevant to their audience. And that's what we did at Mardi Gras, we do at Frameline. It's just, you have to just make sure you're in every newsletter, that you're across social media. And the great thing about a queer film festival is once you come once, you see the love in the room, you want to come back. So it's just about getting those folks in first, and also marketing. Film festivals in the past were always sort of seen as an elitist place, almost too academic. So when it comes to your artwork, it has to be inviting and bright. It can't look snobby and one-sided, And also, we know, especially in the West, queer film festivals, the audiences are somewhat aging. We have to think of ways to attract a younger audience, be it like a dating night at the cinema bar, be it a film like Love, Simon, which I know Mardi Gras Film Festival played. You really have to find those films that will connect with the younger audience as well, because once they come once, they want to come back. Like, my husband, before he met me, he was into cinema, but he hadn't really attended a film festival, I don't think. And then he'd come to Sydney Film Festival and Mardi Gras, especially Sydney Film Festival at the State Theatre, just that big cinema. He would end up taking a whole week off. And it's the same at Frameline when he comes to the Castro. I think it's just important to uncover every stone to attract a diverse audience, just get people in.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your views and experiences. The last question we wanted to ask you is, looking back at your experience of programming and organizing film festivals, what were your most rewarding experiences and what were your most challenging ones?
I think the most rewarding is seeing the folks who come through the festival either to work or to volunteer, and then 5 years later you see they've started their own film festival. It happened at Mardi Gras Film Festival. This guy Benson was helping out working there, and now he's got his own Taiwan Film Festival in Sydney, which is wonderful. There was this other guy, I remember, Kyle, who came to volunteer, and I was like, yeah, you can be a volunteer. Now he's at film school making his own film. So for me, these festivals can be a training ground for people to gain confidence and then go out and do their own thing, because I've always been very sort of collaborative with the team, whether it's an intern or whether it's someone seasoned. And yeah, it's just great to see people going on and doing their own thing. And also, what I've loved to see is the diversity of the audience changing, like people of all walks of life sitting together, people from across the LGBTQ plus seeing a variety of films. I just love that. The challenges, I think, of course, there's a lot of challenges, but I try not to see the challenges. And I suppose the hardest challenges is confirming the films and reminding people why queer film festivals are launch pads. And the really good thing is it's happening. It's always happened, and it's happening more so at a place like Frameline. Like even in a virtual festival in June, we had at least 2 or 3 world premiere features. In September, we had around the same. So I feel like all the work the programmers around the world that queer film festivals are doing, we're overcoming the challenges and becoming even more relevant, even to the streamers. Like Frameline now, we work with Netflix, with HBO Max. It's just great to get the content. Yeah. I've had a great time working at Queer, and then soon I'm sure I'll always be part of it. But yes, it's been fun.
That's great, Paul. That's a really, really nice place to end with fun on an upbeat note. So we just want to thank you very much again for sharing your experience and your knowledge with us today. So thank you.
Thank you both. Yeah, thanks for a
you so
charming
much.
interview.
Yeah.
Conversation with Paul Struthers. Interviewers Jon Binnie and Klesse. Funders Ruckus, the Research Centre for Applied Social Sciences. Part of Queer Resource. Copyright Manchester Metropolitan University.